guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Cardiff City World. Here for another breakdown extra. It's Thursday, so technically my day off. Certainly this evening, it's my day off. So wanted to do a quick sort of 15 minutes or whatever on Siopis leaving off to Panthers. It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because I think I said, and I was kind of alluded to it the other day, that once Mannsburg came in, there was one too many midfielders, and it did look like he was probably the odd one out, just when you looked at it. But you never know in football, of course. There was always a chance. But we're going to talk a little bit about Mannsburg in just a second and how he fits in. But I wanted to sort of just talk about Siopis first and foremost, because, yeah, a mixed bag. Like, you know, you speak to some people and they think he's terrible, and you speak to other people and they believe he's one of the best, or certainly one of our better midfielders. When he first came in, I thought he was a certain, that first initial period, sort of, I don't know, first couple of months, I thought he was the best defensive midfielder in the Championship. But in that first season, he had a big dip under Errol Bullock, and then but we discussed it a lot at the time, that, get rid of my cat again, we discussed it at the time that Siopis was trying to do the role of two people. So he was trying to be the holding midfielder last year, and he was also trying to be the dynamic number 8, switching play, and he became a bit of a conundrum in himself. It was almost like he wanted to be that progressive midfielder who was switching play and breaking the lines and arriving late and playing the ball, you know, in behind and all these different things. But he'd been brought up, and his skill set was that of a defensive midfielder who sits, wins the ball, presses a lot, and he almost just became like a bit of a paradox, like, you know. But I think the one thing you can say with Siopis is never did he shirk his responsibility. He was phenomenal with the fans, always gave 100%, always, you know, pressed and was determined to go and take the team forward, which is unusual for a defensive midfielder. You know, defensive midfielders, you think of kind of sitting in, breaking up play, but he wanted to take the play to the opposition. He wanted to go hunt the ball down, win it back. And it's interesting, really interesting actually, because I think, like, we look at this Leeds game coming up at the weekend, it's the perfect game for Siopis. We're going to do a lot of our work on the break, and his pressing and his ability to turn the ball over is massive. But it looks like he won't be available. He's gone back to Panathinaikos. And look, that's an understandable move. You know, it's one of the biggest clubs in Greece. You know, big history. He's from Greece, of course. I'm sure a lot of young Greek kids and Greek footballers grow up wanting to play for Olympiakos and Panathinaikos and these different clubs. So, you know, you get it. Very, very popular with the fans, very popular with the kids. But as a footballer, I think at his best, he was real good. But when he was just okay, probably we didn't see enough of the best of Siopis. I think, you know, we saw glimpses and little periods where he'd be pretty decent, but we never quite saw a run of consistent performances from him. Maybe like a couple, and then he'd drop a bit of a clanger. Like recently, he was doing really well with Callum Chambers. I think he had an illness or an injury or something, came back against Millwall and was really poor. And that was almost like an encapsulation of what his career has been at Cardiff. He would be decent for a couple of games, poor for a couple of games, decent, poor, and it's finding that consistency over a longer period was probably what eluded him. In terms of why now, it's interesting because I think if you go back, when Errol Bullitt left, I was texted by someone and he said Siopis will be gone in January. And at the time I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Errol Bullitt's guy, isn't he? But then, obviously, as time progressed, he seemed to really settle under Omar Rhys, and he seemed to really play for Rhys. So, who knows, I guess. Ultimately, I think, as Cardiff fans, we can thank him for his efforts, thank him for his time, and effectively say, thank you very much, appreciate you, wish him all the best, and we move on. And I think, if you look at it from a purely footballing point of view, Cardiff have upgraded, certainly till the summer. Now, what happens in the summer? Because you have Joe Rose out of contract, you have Mannsverk going back to Ajax. So straight away, you're two midfielders down. Ramsey's out of contract, 3 midfielders down. So, Cardiff, you need to be clever. Sivert Mannsverk, why is he the guy for the Bluebirds midfield? I wanted to just talk about a little bit about why he's very, very good. He brings a lot of qualities that I think are going to help get the best out of the likes of Alex Robertson, Ollie Tanner, Ruben Colwell even. Because what he does is he scans before he receives the ball a lot, and he receives it on the half turn. He plays very well in a double pivot, and he'll be the one who just breaks up play. He reminds me of a slightly quicker Xabi Alonso. He is a bit one-footed, but he has the ability to, what he does is he receives it on the half turn and he'll roll his defender or the person who's marking him, and then he carries the ball and progresses it. And that's something which Cardiff massively lack. And when you look at his ball progression skills, that's where he really does excel a little bit. So he's got 1.18 dribbles per 90 minutes with a 78.8% succession rate. That's very high. 3.72 of his long balls per 90. He makes 3.72 long balls in a 90-minute period generally, on average. And he hits it about a 65.1% long ball accuracy. He's very strong on the ball. He's tall, he's big, he's strong. His control is excellent, and he progresses the ball superbly. He really excels when there's that space in front of him and he can drive into it and take the team forward. And if he can receive it on the half turn, drive into the midfield, and he's got options in front of him. He's got Robertson busting along to one side. He's got Ruben dropping into a pocket. He's got Tanner on the left. He's got El Ghazi. He's got, Ashford. He's got Robinson. He's got Salic. If these people make the right runs and the right movements, he has the ability to find them with passes. He can be that defensive midfielder, break up play. He reads the game really well. Just move it on. But then he also has the ability to get it, drive, beat his man, and drive up through into the midfield and release his teammates. So it's going to be interesting. He really excels, like I said, with that space in front of him. But it also makes that his decision making towards the final third is pretty good. If you look at some of the stats his 2023 stats on the ball, he had an average of 78.6 touches per game or per 90, 56.8 accurate passes per 90, 86.90 accuracy of those passes, which is again high over a season. Has seen he's often going to be that first form of attack in the way, especially the way we set up, because he will sit, and I think he's going to be in that Callum Chambers role, which is going to be an interesting one, because I think Callum Chambers looked very vulnerable in defence. Put him into midfield, and he's been probably one of our best players alongside Rhys Motor, and it's going to be interesting because my view is that Mannsburg is the perfect partner for Alex Robertson. But I think Omar Risa, we might be looking at it playing Chambers, Mannsburg, and then Robertson in the 10. I'm not sure, but we see. But he is going to be that first point of attack. He's going to break the lines with passes. He's going to break the lines with ball carrying. He's going to receive the ball from the centre-backs, the full-backs. His comfortability on the ball and the way he receives it on that half turn just helps him open up the whole pitch, and it allows him to be really, really effective when he brings that ball forward. When you look more towards the final third, he's very good at making space for himself, which by being intelligent about your movement and the spaces you take up, you also then allow yourself more time, space to pick out the best option, to make the right decisions. And typical, of an Ajax sort of graduate, technically absolutely excellent, exceptional on the ball, all the time in the world, very rarely makes the wrong decision, composure for days, everything you'd expect from like an Ajax midfielder. His decision making is something which really, really does stand out in terms of making the right decision, when to be risky, when to just play it, when to keep the ball moving, when to move it fast, when to slow it down. Very, very good. But he's not afraid to take a risk. He's not afraid to spray a switch ball out. He's not afraid to play it a bit more of a dynamic pass and try and break the lines or get in behind the fullback. It's going to be fascinating to watch him interact with some of our players. He really, really is, or should I say, he really enjoys carrying the ball into the half spaces, looking for gaps, looking out wide, looking through the middle. And if we can get those runners, that movement around him, then we'll be laughing. Defensively and in the duels, he's a big lad, as I mentioned just now. He competes well in the duels. He especially good at slide-in challenges, slide tackles. 76% win rate. With such good on-the-ball control, he has the ability to recover and recycle possession really quickly. He's a smart player, and his football IQ is really high. The timing of those interceptions, when to go, when to press, when to stay, when to hold your position, when to block the passing lanes, all these things are good. But sometimes I think he needs to work on that, like the timing of certain things, like the timing of when to jump and stuff like that. But that's it's a young player, isn't it? In terms of similarities, the way he sort of sets up, he's been playing in the left side of a double pivot for Ajax in a 4-2-3-1. He can also play in a single pivot build up. So like we've talked about before, when Cardiff get possession, one fullback will push up, one slots in, you have the single pivot in front of the centre backs, the other midfielder pushes up, and you become a much more attacking 4-3-3 at least, usually maybe a bit more than that. He's used to that. Very, very similar tactically and shape wise. Obviously Callum Chambers has recently dropped into that pivot role when Cardiff bailed out. Whenever the opponents do press high and it's difficult to break down, I think Mannsburg would be the one to switch into that role, which giving Chambers freedom and less pressure to actually try and progress the ball, because that's not what he's there for. Chambers is there to break up play, to close things down. Mannsburg will be the ball player. Cardiff have needed an intelligent, dual winning, but extremely composed on the ball pivot for a very long time. I'm not his biggest fan, but Ryan Wintle does provide some of the traits that we've been missing, but not enough of them for me. I'm really looking forward to seeing Mansburg slip into the side. He could play in a traditional 4-3-3 and be a single pivot, and you could have 2-8s like Robertson and Colwell and be a bit more attacking, like we saw with Bellamy at home for Wales. He could play in a 4-4-2 and press with Ruben and the striker, like pushing on. There's a whole host of tactical options that Mansburg brings, as well as a lot of quality. Shout out to Diff Analysis for the help with the stats and the tactics and all that sort of stuff. Really looking forward to. We're gonna have a video from Evan over the next day or so as well, so please do look out for it. Please do encourage him, welcome him, all that good stuff. I was wanting to get Evan on the channel for a while. It was just finding the right time because he had exams and stuff like that. But I'm really excited. He's very, very good at the analysis and stuff like that. So take a look at his Twitter at Diff Analysis, and also, yeah, make sure you check out his video, which is coming very, very soon. I will see you for the preview in a bit.